Hey guys, it's Andrew Henderson from Nomad Capitalist here in Bogota, Colombia. Just wanted to make an ad hoc video for you to answer a question that an increasing number of people have been asking us, to talk a little bit about what this last year has been like as we now approach a full year of global chaos with COVID-19. And even for a small number of you, towards the end of this video, I'm going to offer a blatant sales pitch. So be ready for that. So the question is, why does Nomad Capitalist work with 7- and 8-figure entrepreneurs, 9-figure entrepreneurs, even sometimes 10-figure entrepreneurs and investors? And we've heard from people who say, hey, I love what you're doing, but would like for you to talk to people who just have a social security check, just have a pension check, people who are new in business. People who maybe have a low 6-figure income. What should we do? And obviously we have over 1,100 videos here on YouTube. We have something like 2,000 blog posts on nomadcapitalist.com. We have the book Nomad Capitalist on Amazon for like $8. And you can learn a lot from those things, and you can really go and get started. Some people don't understand, and they get frustrated, and they get upset, and they call us names, and they come to us, and then we're the best thing on earth, and then suddenly we're the worst people that ever lived after they come and they look at some of the requirements, or they talk to us, and we just aren't able to help them. And I'm sitting here, suit and shirt, just finished up a week-long private client mastermind, spent pretty much the last entire week meeting with someone and helping them with several senior members of my team. Remember a month or two ago, we put in an offer to do that, and here we are. And so the reason I wanted to talk about this issue is part business lesson, part talking about what's going on in the world. And if you look back at the last year, you've had a pandemic that has been global, that has seen people lose income, seen mass upheaval in the world, but you've also had people who've done very well in equity markets and cryptocurrency. You've seen a lot of people become very successful starting online businesses. I talked about a gentleman who turned his side hustle into now a multi-million dollar a year online business while sitting at home during the lockdowns last spring. And so you've had a lot of people become very successful. You've had, cryptocurrencies up basically 10x in the last 11 months. You've had businesses like ours, anything that can be done remotely, do very well. And you've also had a lot of folks in countries that I call the legacy brands, the United States, the Canadas, the UKs, Australia. They've seen that their government doesn't care as much about them as they thought. They're now seeing that the taxes they're paying don't really get them as much as they thought they would get in return when times get tough. They're seeing that their freedoms are eroding. They are seeing that higher taxes are on the horizon. I've never seen more countries calling for any kind of tax. You've got not only the OECD working on a global minimum tax for multinational corporations with high revenues, like online businesses like Netflix. I believe that people will be next at some point. You'll see more countries like the United States taxing their citizens in some level. I also believe that more talk of wealth tax by numerous countries. Even while we've seen countries like Malaysia and Indonesia come out and say, hey, we're not going to do that. You're seeing countries that have been declining for years now coming out looking to raise taxes. And so there's been a lot of inputs into the system in the last year. Not only have a lot more people become wealthy, people who perhaps when they would have become wealthy already wanted to move overseas, do what I did and go where they're treated best. But you're also seeing a lot more folks who are the 7- and 8-figure entrepreneurs saying we need a plan B. And we've been getting so many calls and emails over the last year from folks who have 10 million, 30 million, 50, 100 million, 200, 500 million dollars in the bank. From celebrities, from very successful people who they realize, probably need a second passport. And so, here's how Nomad Capitalist runs. You have me, and you've got, by March 1st, there'll be about 36 or 37 of us. We've been hiring like crazy because we really have to hire well in advance because what we do is so unique that even if you have a great knowledge of tax, for example, you don't really know how we work. And so we have to really train people on that. We're always hiring in advance. We'll have about 36 people in the next coming weeks. But when you think about it, right, it's not a huge number. I'm proud of it. I'm proud of how our business has grown, and I appreciate those of you who have come along for the ride. But 36 people. You've got a couple people in there who run social media, who run YouTube, who run Nomad Capitalist Live, our conference coming up. They're just in the marketing side, right? We do a lot of organic content. Someone has to produce it, someone has to edit it, someone has to film it, someone has to do everything. Other than this, which I'm filming myself. And then you've got people who are on the research side. Someone's got to keep up with 1,000+ banks. Someone's got to keep up with all the immigration programs. What are the changes? Someone's got to keep up with which countries are allowing dual citizenship. So now, there's opportunities there. Someone's got to keep up with everything, because this stuff changes all the time. We just saw changes confirmed today for Portugal for the Golden Visa program. Now they're changing the date. They're going to make it 2022. You're going to see changes in price increases. Cayman Islands, price increases. Stuff is always changing. I mean, we stopped even making lists of what changed because so much stuff changes. So we're going to have about 5 people in research. Then we've got people in strategy. We've got people who help me create plans for folks that we're working with. Then we've got operations, people who we're working with who have a plan, then are executing that plan, and we're doing the work. Hiring there, building that out, because more and more people are taking this seriously. Not only are there more people coming and making plans, but more people are executing their plans. And then, of course, you've got people who just, handle the finances, handle bringing people in, contracts, that kind of stuff. And so what does that mean for Nomad Capitalist? Every year, mostly for the last couple of years, I've raised the number of people that we can work with as I've gotten people to help me, as we've outsourced more of what I do. Part of what we do is, in one particular gentleman's case, we just had to sit on hold with the embassy for 4 hours a day because they would never answer the phone for us to get him his EU residence permit. And we had to start with the embassy in his country, and they were just terrible. And so that's obviously not something that I'm going to do. It's not something that one of my team leaders is going to do. It's not even something now that one of their assistants is going to do. It's like an assistant of an assistant who's going to do that. But with 36 people, we can only do so much. And so we've raised the number of people we can work with by creating more scale. But what's also happened is, as we've had more high-level people come in, things get more complicated. They have more complicated needs, right? They have companies that are in 4 different countries, and it takes longer than a guy who's just running an e-commerce store. We still help the e-commerce store guy, but even the e-commerce store guy seems to have more issues. I'm also doing this, and that's an issue. So things have become more complicated, even as we can handle more people. This year, with increased admin help, we will probably help about 150 to 160 people. And what does that mean? It means that when demand increases, when we start seeing more people from Mexico calling us more than ever before, because they're concerned about Mexico and they're concerned about being a citizen in that country. When we see people calling us from Brazil, when we see people calling us from places all over the world where they're concerned about their freedom, they're concerned about their safety, they're concerned about their finances, in addition to a lot more Americans, in addition to slightly more Canadians, Brits, Australians, etc., we have to make tough choices. And Nomad Capitalist is a business that grew organically. I never planned that we would be doing it exactly this way. We started out by selling ebooks. And, I looked at how many people actually followed through in that stuff, and it depressed me. I really feel personally frustrated when people get information and they just sit around and don't act on it. And I've had people in my own life who I've helped, and then they still sit around and don't act. It bothers me. I've had to stop taking calls for a while from some friends because they just keep wanting to call and talk about it, and it's just just do it. And so we switched into this, model of applying our knowledge and helping hundreds and hundreds of people at this point, do this stuff and plan and execute on a holistic level, which is pretty rare. And so that requires a lot of input. And so why do we work with only 7 and 8-figure entrepreneurs? It's not because we have a beef against anybody. And as our company continues to grow organically, I hope we can find a way to help more people. I like helping people. But here the last year has been pretty crazy. I was in Myanmar when this whole thing with COVID broke loose. And I cut my trip short to fly back to Malaysia before they closed the borders. And thank goodness I did, because while I could get back in now, for about 6 weeks there, you wouldn't have been able to get back in. And I got a lot of work done, but my days of I'm going to take 1 week off every quarter and go and meditate and go and relax and go and decompress and go and, think of new ideas, that's been off the table. There are days that, as much as my wife knew I was a workaholic when she met me, I see her for 5 minutes some days because my team leaders and I are basically working around the clock to keep up with everything going on and make sure that we raise the standard of service. Every year we figure out what we're going to do to raise the standard of service and be better. And obviously I think that there's an energy there that therefore attracts higher level people and perhaps repels some lower level people by just constantly improving what we're doing. If you look at this year versus 2018 versus 2017 versus 2016, big difference in the way that we're handling things and the efficiency and all that. And as a result, can only help so many people. Obviously, when somebody screams and yells at you in a YouTube comment and leaves the same comment 20 times, and Taco says, "Hey, there's this guy leaving the same comment 20 times, how he was rejected, and you're a jerk, and you're a buffoon, and you're the scum of the earth," I can tell you, in all honesty, we've had maybe one guy who was a 9-figure guy who was a little arrogant. But by and large, you talk to people who are ultra high net worth individuals. They are some of the nicest people. I'm not talking about trust fund kids. I'm talking about self-made 9-figure individuals. I've sat across the table from some of these guys. Some of the nicest people you will ever meet. Some of the kindest people. Now, is some of it to get you to do a good job for them? Maybe, but you're never going to hear the kind of negativity from someone successful. And so, as a business lesson, I would say to anyone out there, I've always said, for almost my entire business career, either work with the lowest end or work with the highest end. Right? If you're going to run a car dealership, either sell Bentleys or run a buy here, pay here car lot. You're financing people at 40-50% a year and you're chasing them down when they don't pay. Don't be in the mushy middle. We run a boutique service. Just talked to a couple folks this week. They're making tens of millions of dollars. They just want someone to handle things for them that knows what they're doing, and they've seen how many people have failed them. I think that's one reason why a lot of young entrepreneurs, and I look back at myself at 22, 23, 24, I thought making 200 grand a year, I owned the planet, and I thought everyone else should slave away from me. And it's embarrassing to look back at that because I thought that was the greatest extent of what I thought. I remember sitting at the Biltmore Hotel when I was about 22 years old, and a guy, on a Saturday night, would just go over and get some work done and sit at in the lobby of the Biltmore Hotel in Phoenix, Arizona. And a guy came up to me. There was some conference happening. He came out. He started talking to me. And he said, "Oh, I know what you're trying to do. You're going to get your 10 million and then just get out." I said, "Yeah, I guess." And even though as a kid I wanted to be far more successful than that, I guess at 22 I got into things in the real world, and I just kind of lost sight of what's 10 million, what's 100 million. I was so happy I was making a couple $100 grand a year and building a little business. And I really thought that I had everything figured out. And you know what? I think the success principle of 7, 8, 9, 10-figure entrepreneurs is they realize they don't have everything figured out. That's been one of my greatest successes over the years, is realizing I don't know everything. And I want to constantly learn and constantly grow. And when I need to pay someone, when I need to hire someone, I will. And so the bottom line is, our business is constantly expanding the number of the folks that we help. The challenge is that so is the market, and probably by much more than the percentages that we're helping. How many Americans 2 years ago thought they needed a second passport versus now? How many Americans 2 years ago thought that there could be a wealth tax, or thought that the capital gains tax rate could double and that they might need a way out, whether it's moving to Puerto Rico, having a backup passport, whatever. How many people thought that their country was perfectly safe and now they don't? And now they don't think it's the be-all end-all, that their government won't protect them. Those numbers are increasing rapidly, and so it's been very hard for us to scale. It's not because I dislike anybody. Obviously, I'd like to build the biggest business possible. I also realize that there's an energetic difference in serving people at the 7, 8, 9-figure level than there is at the 5-figure level. And you see that when you see people who go out and they sell what I call shiny objects. They sell Panama residents. They sell Belize companies, and they never really help you figure it out. We had a great comment on our channel recently from a guy who said, "You want this guy to hire 36 people," I'm filling in the number, but you want him to have all this staff track all these banks, have all these relationships, have people traveling all around the world. Now have some of the people traveling in business class. It gets more expensive because people do a great job here. And you want us to do all this stuff in 13 years of experience in the real world and charge $500 for that? I mean, it's just impossible. And so there's a whole difference in value that I think is hard to say what you stand for. I believe, having been a consumer of this stuff and having been a student of this stuff for so many years, that making the pieces work together is important. You can go out and get a second passport, but you want to make sure it works from a tax standpoint. You want to make sure it meets your objective goals. You want to talk about opportunity cost. I mean, there's so many questions just about which second passport should I get that no one who just has their book of 5 islands to sell you will talk about. And that is my opinion. There are people who think that that is a justification to charge more. Certainly it is a reason to charge more because there's a lot more work when you make things work together properly and you don't just slap stuff together and say, I don't know, talk to your US tax guy, see if that works or not, and then you find out it doesn't. But that's the thing, I'm not so concerned about those folks. And I think if you're in business, you shouldn't be concerned with the folks that don't like you. And I'm not saying that's every 5 or 6 figure individual by any means. We've got a lot of great, loving fans in here. We had a video yesterday, and I thank you for all 2 days ago. Thanks for all the amazing comments that you guys left. But, to me, this is something Nomad Capitalist that I love doing. I would be looking at passports. I'd be doing all this stuff whether I had a business or not, because I was doing it and then the business was born out of it. And for that reason, I'd like to see my wife more than 5 minutes some days. I would like to take a day off. I feel guilty. My Protestant upbringing, I feel guilty about taking a day off. I'm sitting here on a Saturday, and it's the one day off in about 2 weeks. I've got about 6, actually not the whole day, I've about 6 hours off, and I'm sitting here saying, let me make a video and answer some viewer questions. I can't help myself, but I would like to start helping myself. I'd like to go back to doing at least one Myanmar trip a year, at least one vacation a year for a week. But it's just been so crazy the last year, and I really wanted to make sure everyone gets taken care of, and I've had to work with the team. I spent 3 months in Belgrade building and training and improving and increasing efficiency in the team, imposing my standards and teaching people. And, the business will continue to develop organically, and we will see what the opportunities are. For now, I'm really focused on serving people who are successful crypto traders, crypto investors, entrepreneurs, whether it's on the internet or elsewhere, people who sold businesses, high net worth individuals. To me, there's a different energy in doing that. There's a different standard of service in doing that. And so here is the announcement. There's 2 different announcements. On March 1st, the price of our flagship product, the price of working with us to create your plan, is going to increase yet again by about 15 or 16%. If you email my team, if you go to our application page on nomadcapitalist.com and you get in now, then we will work with you. But pretty soon the price is going to be going up. If you are not ready for that flagship service, if you are not the 7 or 8 figure entrepreneur or investor, Nomad Capitalist Live is now about 90 days away. Perhaps fewer than 90 days away. Ian Playa.com in Mexico, which is currently open for business. It is headed in the right direction. Talked to the hotel. We are currently all systems go. Obviously, everything changes by the day. We recently ended our early bird deal. But we also only have about 50 some seats left in the room. We had thought we would perhaps oversell a little bit like an airline, assuming some people wouldn't show up. We currently don't plan to do that because if everyone does show up, we're going to have an issue. Obviously, we don't want people, we don't want a health problem. So there's about 50 or so seats left, 90 days. From my experience doing 3 of these conferences before, most people want to buy in the last 30 days. And I believe that we will sell out before we're done. So you can go to nomadcapitalist.com/live. There is no income requirement. There's no screening other than we want you to be a nice person. Atita will collect your information when you fill out a little form on nomadcapitalist.com/live. You'll be connected with Atita, who's planning the event. She's organizing it. She'll talk to you. I think there was one guy, she said, I try to get involved in all the drama. But she said, one guy was like screaming and yelling at her, said, yeah, don't have him come, right? We're doing all right. I just got the numbers from 2020 versus 2019. We don't need to take someone's, $2,700. Now it's $4,000. If he's going to be screaming and yelling, it's not the kind of atmosphere you want. But other than you're not screaming and yelling and you're a relatively nice person, we'd love to have you. Even if you're just getting started and you want to collect ideas, we're going to be sharing it. We've got Robert Kiyosaki, we've got the former president of Georgia, we've got others coming. Roger Ver is going to be coming. People said, why is Roger Ver coming? I said, well, Roger Ver is one of the most prolific U.S. citizenship renunciants in the modern, decade, and I want to hear his experience about doing that. And so I want those of you who are maybe considering doing that to be able to hear not just my story but his. And of course, my team leaders, many of our team research members, etc. You're going to hear all of them speaking. So, that's what you need to do. If you would like to work with us and you are a 7, 8, 9-figure entrepreneur investor, you can email help@nomadcapitalist.com. They will help you get directed to the right place, and they'll make sure that we can get you in. It's really it's been a challenge for us because I don't like making people wait, but it's been tough because there are only 24 hours in a day, and it's just been crazy. And I appreciate all of your patience who've been waiting. We try and keep it pretty short, but you can't just get in and get enough. I get these LinkedIn messages. Let's hop on a Zoom call, Andrew. I said, I got no time for Zoom calls. If you want to pay me, we're going to talk in a couple weeks. And so if you want to do that, email help@nomadcapitalist.com. We'll make sure you get taken care of. If you want to come to Nomad Capitalist Live, May of 2021, go to nomadcapitalist.com/live. Get your tickets. The early bird special is now finally over, but we are all systems go for the time being, and looking forward to seeing you. We've got about 50 some seats left, and we expect those to sell out. So don't plan on buying it 2 days before the conference. There will not be any space. I can be certain of that. So those are the two, as I said, blatant sales pitches. If you want to save yourself a couple $1,000 and get moving on creating your personal plan with myself and with our whole now larger than ever team, then email us help@nomadcapitalist.com or go and grab your tickets at nomadcapitalist.com for our upcoming event. VIP tickets sold out, by the way, for 6 or 9 months. It's been a long time. But we got about 50 some standard seats left. So that is it. That is an answer to a commonly asked question. Appreciate you joining me for this ad hoc video today from my own home here in Bogota. Have a great weekend ahead. Look forward to speaking with you. Look forward to seeing you at Nomad Capitalist Live. Thanks for being with us.